The hallway was always the coldest at night. Maybe it was the way the lights flickered, or the silence that felt heavier than the mop in my hands. But every time that clock hit 11:47 p.m., the whole building felt like it forgot humans existed. My name's Adam Reed, and for the last 9 months, I'd been working the night shift at Westwood High School. Most people saw a school, lockers, classrooms, trophies collecting dust. But for me, it was just hours of sweeping gum off floors for a paycheck barely big enough to keep the lights on in my apartment. The kind of job you take when you've run out of choices. I pushed my mop across the cafeteria tiles, listening to the hum of the vending machines. My reflection stared back at me from the windows, tired eyes, cracked knuckles, uniform 2 sizes too big. I wasn't always like this. Once I worked construction, built houses, had a crew that respected me, a family that loved me, but life has a way of kicking hard when you're already on your knees. My wife left when money dried up, took my boy with her. "Adam, you always mean well," she said the last time she looked me in the eyes. "But meaning well doesn't pay bills." That sentence still lived rent-free in my skull. Some nights, I wondered how I went from building foundations to scrubbing ketchup off lunch tables. But that's the thing about rock bottom, it's quiet. Too quiet. Around 2:12 a.m., I grabbed my cart and started down hallway C, the oldest wing of the school. The lockers here were dented, paint peeling, doors squeaking like they hadn't been opened in decades. The kids called it Dead End Lane. Even teachers avoided it. That hallway, it always bothered me. Not because it was creepy, though yeah, it had that vibe, but because no cameras worked here. Even the security guard joked, "Adam, don't go ghost hunting in C-Wing." I laughed it off, but the truth. I felt watched every time I cleaned it. As I reached locker row, something strange caught my attention. A faint ringing sound, metallic, like a vibration. I stopped, looking around. The hallway was empty. Ring, ring, ring. It was short, weak, but unmistakable. A locker was vibrating. My stomach tightened. Nobody uses these old lockers. They were sealed years ago when the school remodeled. I moved closer, following the sound until I reached locker number 119. A dark blue number plate, rust around the edges, and a padlock so old it looked welded shut. But the locker was shaking. "What the hell?" I whispered. I put my hand on the cold metal. The vibration stopped instantly. The hallway fell silent again, too silent. I pulled my hand back, heart thumping. Curiosity is a dangerous thing when you're tired and lonely. I leaned down, shining my flashlight at the lock. That's when something hit me. This locker wasn't on the cleaning map, or the school layout, or any of the maintenance lists. I'd cleaned this hallway 100 times. Locker number 119 didn't exist. I stepped back, breathing slow. Every instinct told me to walk away, finish my shift, forget this ever happened. But something tugged at me, a strange, warm familiarity I couldn't explain. Like this locker was calling me. I pulled the padlock. It didn't budge. I tried again, still solid. "Yeah, figures," I sighed. "Nothing in my life opens easily." I turned to leave, but then I heard it. Click. I froze. The padlock hung loose. Nobody else was in the building. Nobody walked past me. Nobody touched it. It had unlocked by itself. A chill crawled up my spine. But whatever was inside, I needed to see it. Needed to understand why a locker that shouldn't exist was practically begging me to open it. I pulled the door. It creaked open with a long, aching sound. Inside was nothing. Just darkness. Then my flashlight landed on something at the bottom. A folder, old, dusty, and written across the front in fading black ink, "Reed 1998, my last name." My throat tightened. I picked it up with shaking hands. The paper felt brittle, like it had been untouched for decades. I flipped it open. Inside were photographs. My heart stopped. It was my father, in a Westwood high maintenance uniform, standing in this same hallway, smiling like he wasn't holding the world on his shoulders. A man I barely remembered. A man who died when I was 7. "Dad," I whispered. My flashlight flickered. Something shifted behind me, and for the first time in months I wasn't sure I was alone. My flashlight trembled in my hand as I turned slowly toward the end of the hallway. Nothing, just long shadows stretching across the floor tiles. Maybe it was the air vents. Maybe my brain was messing with me. Or maybe I wasn't supposed to find this. I took a shaky breath and looked back at the folder. There were more photos inside. My father kneeling beside a broken locker. My father laughing with another janitor. My father holding a ring of keys with the same crooked smile I inherited from him. But one picture made my skin crawl. He was standing beside a man in a suit. The same suit style the current principal wears in his old framed photo in the office. My flashlight flickered again. I turned the photo over. In tiny handwriting, "Keep this safe. They can't take what's hidden." Initials, E.R. Edward Reed, my dad. My hands tightened around the photograph. "What the hell were you hiding, Dad?" I whispered. Something else was at the bottom of the locker, a small wooden box, barely the size of my palm. I reached for it, but just as my fingers brushed the top, footsteps. Slow, heavy, coming from the far end of the hallway. My heart slammed against my ribs. This hallway was supposed to be locked at night. Nobody came down here, not teachers, not students, not even security. I shut the locker door quietly and stepped back, clutching the folder to my chest. The footsteps grew louder. I backed up until my shoulders hit the wall. Panic crawled up the back of my neck. The hallway lights above me flickered once, twice, then a voice floated through the darkness. "Who's there?" Not angry, not surprised, just curious. It wasn't the security guard. His voice was deeper, older. This one sounded smoother, firm, maybe mid-40s. I cleared my throat. "A janitorial staff just finishing up." The footsteps stopped. Silence. Then Adam Reed. My blood went cold. Nobody should know my name at 2:30 a.m. Not in this hallway, not right now. I tightened my grip on the folder, pulse hammering. "Who's asking?" I said. A shape appeared at the far end, tall, wearing a winter coat, face hidden in the dim light. "You shouldn't be in C-Wing," the voice said calmly. "It's restricted." I tried to swallow. My throat was dry. "Door was unlocked. I'm just cleaning." "It's been locked since 2004, the man said, stepping closer. Every instinct I had screamed run, but my legs wouldn't move. I forced a casual shrug. "Well, sir, it was open tonight." The man stopped about 10 feet away. I could finally see his face. Assistant Principal Martin Graves. I'd talked to him twice since I started working here. Both times he never even looked at me long enough to remember my face. But now, he was studying me like he just caught me breaking into his house. "What are you holding?" he asked. I hid the folder behind my mop cart. "Just cleaning reports." His eyes narrowed. "Let me see." I felt the air leave my lungs. "It's nothing important, just—" "Adam," he interrupted softly. "Do you know what time it is?" I nodded. "About 2:30. He smiled, but it wasn't friendly. It was the kind of smile people make when they're already 10 steps ahead of you. "Good," he said, "because at this hour nobody else is supposed to be here, except you." Something about the way he emphasized "except you" made my skin crawl. I forced a weak smile. "Then we're both breaking rules." He didn't laugh. His eyes drifted toward the locker, the one locker that shouldn't exist, and he stared at it way too long. Like he already knew about it. Like he'd been waiting for someone to open it. "Adam," he said quietly, "has anyone told you not to clean this hallway?" I hesitated. "No," he nodded. "Good, keep it that way, and stay out of that locker row. Some things here belong to the past." He gave me one last cold look before turning and walking back down the hall, his shoes echoing until the sound disappeared around the corner. I froze until I couldn't hear his footsteps anymore. My chest rose and fell hard. Every part of me wanted to leave the building right then and forget I ever saw anything. But then my eyes drifted to the locker again, to the folder in my hands, to the picture of my father smiling like a man who believed in good things. "Dad," I whispered, "what were you mixed up in?" I looked down at the small wooden box still inside the locker. Whatever answers existed, they were in there. And I wasn't leaving without it. I reached in, grabbed the box, and tucked it under my jacket. Then I closed the locker door quietly. As I walked away, the lights flickered again. For a moment, I swear I saw a shadow move inside the locker row. A shape that wasn't mine, wasn't Graves, wasn't human. I shook it off and pushed my cart toward the exit. But I didn't get 10 steps before I saw something that stopped me cold. A fresh piece of paper lay on the floor, folded, perfectly placed. Like someone dropped it for me. With shaking hands, I picked it up. Inside, in the same handwriting as the photo, "If you found this, you're in danger now. Don't trust the school." My father's initials again. My hands shook as I held that note, the ink faded but unmistakably my father's writing. "You're in danger now. Don't trust the school." A chill crawled across the back of my neck. My father died in 1998. This note looked like it was written yesterday. I shoved it into my jacket and forced my legs to move. My shift wasn't over, but I didn't care. For the first time since I took this job, fear outweighed hunger, bills, and dignity. As I pushed the mop cart toward the exit, I kept replaying what Graves said. "This hallway has been locked since 2004. But the lock opened on its own. And the photos in the folder, all from before 1999, the year my father died in a so-called maintenance accident. So, why did the hallway look abandoned, like it hadn't been touched since he worked here? And why did the assistant principal care so much? Questions stacked in my mind like bricks ready to fall. When I finally reached the exit, I punched out with trembling fingers. The cold Ohio air hit my face hard, like someone slapped me awake. My old Chevy coughed twice before starting. As I got inside, I tossed the mop, gloves, and everything else aside. All I cared about was the folder and the wooden box. I turned on the dome light. The folder sat on my lap. Dust still clung to its edges. I opened it again, flipping past the photos until I found something new tucked behind the last page, a yellowed incident report. At the top it said, "Westwood High Maintenance Department Internal Incident File, Restricted Access Employee, Edward Reed." My pulse quickened. I scanned the page. Reporting party, Martin Graves. My breath froze. Graves. The assistant principal. The man who found me tonight. The man who said C-Wing was locked since 2004. I read further. Employee displayed unusual behavior, accessed restricted areas, possessed unauthorized keys, claimed discovery of unsafe conditions in C-Wing that could threaten student safety, required formal review. Then, at the bottom, case closed, accidental fall, no further action required. I stared at the words until my vision blurred. My dad didn't just fall, he didn't just die on a job. He filed a warning report. He found something dangerous in the same wing I just opened. And the man who reported him, the same man who showed up tonight 16 years later. Graves wasn't curious. He wasn't surprised. He was making sure history didn't repeat. My father wasn't crazy. He was silenced. I slammed the folder shut, rage burning beneath my ribs. "Dad, what did they do to you?" I breathed. A soft thump snapped me back. I glanced around the car. Nothing. Then I saw it. The wooden box had slid onto the floorboard. I picked it up and held it carefully. It was carved, old, and warm to the touch, like someone held it minutes ago. My father's initials were scratched on the bottom. I flicked open the rusted clasp. Inside was a key, silver, heavy, old-fashioned. Not for a locker, not for a classroom, something bigger, something hidden. Wrapped around it was a torn piece of paper with one line: "If anything happens to me, open room B17. My heart stopped. Room B17 didn't exist. Not on any map, not on any cleaning schedule. But I'd seen that number before, yes. On a door chained shut in the basement hallway near the old boiler room. A place no staff entered. A place even the head custodian avoided. I swallowed hard. That was tomorrow night's cleaning route. I made it home around 4 a.m., exhausted and shaking. My apartment was silent except for the humming refrigerator and the pipes that always clicked when it got cold. I dropped my keys, sank onto the couch, and stared at the folder again. Every logical part of me said, "Adam, drop this. You need the job, don't poke the bear." But something deeper spoke louder. "Your dad died trying to protect somebody. Finish what he started." I rubbed my face. "This is insane," I whispered to myself. Then my phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Unknown, stay out of C-Wing, stay out of the basement. This is your first and last warning. I froze. Nobody had my number except the school office and my ex-wife. Definitely not this. Another message came instantly. Unknown. Your father should have listened too. The phone nearly slipped from my hand. My stomach twisted. My heart pounded out of rhythm. This wasn't random. This wasn't a prank. Someone knew I'd opened the locker. Someone knew I had the folder. Someone was watching. I stood and looked out the window. Across the street, a black SUV sat under the street lamp. Windows tinted. Engine running. Who the hell was inside? I stepped back from the window slowly. My father tried to warn me in 1998. Graves tried to scare me away in 2024. But whatever secret lived inside Westwood High, it killed one Reed already. And tonight, I realized they might be ready to kill another. I backed away from the window, heart thudding so loud I could hear it in my ears. The black SUV didn't move, didn't turn off its headlights. It just idled under the street lamp like a silent threat. My father died because he didn't stay out of it. Now someone wanted me to make the same choice. No, not tonight. I dropped to the floor, crawled toward the kitchen counter, and grabbed the old flip phone I kept for emergencies, the one nobody had the number to. I powered it on and shoved my regular phone into the drawer. No location tracking, no message pop-ups, no more threats for now. I peeked through the blinds again. The SUV was gone, just gone, like it was never there. A shiver ran through me. The more I learned, the more danger I felt pressing in from every direction. I looked at the wooden box again, at the key inside. Room B17, the place I wasn't supposed to go. Because whatever happened to my father started in that room. And tomorrow, it was officially on my cleaning route. The next night, 11:45 p.m. I clocked in, trying to look normal. Jenna, the young front office assistant, waved at me from the desk. "Long night ahead?" she asked. "Yeah, like always," I said, forcing a smile. If she noticed the tension in my voice, she didn't mention it. I walked through the hall toward the janitor's supply closet, grabbing my cart, gloves, and flashlight. But my mind wasn't on cleaning. It was on the basement, on room B17, on the key inside my jacket pocket, on my father's voice echoing through a note written almost 30 years ago. They can't take what's hidden. Every step toward the elevator felt heavier. The school felt different tonight, quieter, like it was holding its breath. When the elevator doors opened to the basement level, a cold rush of air hit me. Not normal cold, deep, musty, forgotten cold. The kind that clings to places people avoid. I pushed the cart out. The basement was always dim, lit by old fluorescent bulbs that hummed like angry insects. Pipes lined the ceiling, dripping occasionally. The floor smelled like dust, rust, and something old. I moved slowly, past the storage closets, past old trophies no one bothered polishing anymore, past the boiler room door. Then I reached the corridor I'd only been down once, the one the head custodian told me never to bother cleaning. And there it was, room B17, just like I remembered. A metal door, scratched, dented, and chained shut with thick industrial locks. A faded sign above it read, "Restricted, do not enter." My breath fogged in the cold air. This was it. The place my father tried to warn people about. I pulled the key from my jacket. It felt heavier than before, like it didn't want to be used. My hands shook as I brought it to the first lock. It slid in easily. Click. The chain loosened. I tried the second lock. Click. The chain dropped to the floor with a thud that echoed down the hallway. I swallowed hard. "Okay, Dad," I whispered. "I'm here." I pushed the door gently. It creaked open into darkness. My flashlight trembled as I lifted it. The beam revealed a narrow corridor leading downward. Concrete walls, wires dangling, old stains on the floor. It felt like stepping into a forgotten bunker. I took one shaky step inside. The door slammed shut behind me. I froze, adrenaline spiking. "Hello?" I called out, voice scraping the cold. Nothing, just silence. No worse than silence. Breathing, not mine, slow, deep. Somewhere ahead, I spun around, shining my light. The door was still there, but without a handle on the inside. No way out. My chest tightened, but I forced myself to breathe, one step at a time. The corridor opened into a wider room filled with old equipment, broken desks, filing cabinets, boxes stacked against the far wall. Dust floated through the air like gray snow. Then my flashlight hit something that made my stomach twist, a wall filled with photographs. Hundreds of them, some stuck with pins, some taped, some crumbling, photos of students, teachers, staff. Old ones from the 90s, new ones from this year, and right in the center, a photograph of my father. I stepped closer, pulse racing. He was standing in this exact room, holding a clipboard, looking exhausted but focused. Behind him in the photo was another man, a younger Martin Graves. My heart sank. I pulled the picture off the wall. Behind it was another photo, my father shaking hands with the head custodian, the one who retired days after my father's accident. Behind another photo, my father pointing at a blueprint. Behind another, my father arguing with Graves. Then I saw it. A file taped to the wall, old, yellowed, stamped with red ink. Sea-Wing structural failure report WITHHELD. I grabbed it. Inside was a handwritten note, my father's handwriting. If someone finds this, the school has been hiding the truth. Sea-Wing should have been closed years ago. Students could die. They forced the report into silence. I won't let it happen. My hands shook uncontrollably. He wasn't crazy. He wasn't reckless. He died because he tried to protect kids. Then my flashlight landed on something that made my blood ice over. A fresh folder, not dusty, not old, and written in bold black ink. Adam Reed 2024. My breath caught in my throat. Someone had been expecting me. I reached toward it, footsteps thundered behind me, fast, angry, coming straight down the corridor. I spun around as a voice roared, "Adam, step away from that file now." Assistant Principal Martin Graves stood in the doorway. And he wasn't alone. Two men in security uniforms blocked the exit. My father died in this room. And tonight, I realized I might too. My heart slammed against my ribs so hard it hurt. Graves stood in the doorway, breathing fast, eyes locked on me with a cold fury I'd never seen before. Behind him, the two security guards stepped forward, broad shoulders, blank expressions, like they'd rehearsed this moment. "Adam," Graves said slowly, "drop the file now." His voice wasn't calm anymore, not controlled, not professional. It was shaking. Like he wasn't scared of me, he was scared of what I'd seen. I looked down at the folder labeled Adam Reed 2024, fresh ink, new paper prepared ahead of time. I wasn't some janitor who stumbled into trouble. I was on their list. "Why?" I whispered. "Why my name? Why am I in here?" Graves tightened his jaw. "Because you were supposed to mind your own business." A rush of heat surged through me, anger, confusion, fear, all tangled together. "My father died because you filed a report on him," I shouted. "I read it. You said he was unstable. You said he accessed restricted areas. You lied." Graves' face twisted, guilt, irritation, and something darker. "You don't know the full story," he snapped. "Then tell me." I stepped forward. "Tell me what happened to my father." The guards moved instantly, blocking my path. Graves lifted a hand. "Stay back. Adam, you're in over your head." His eyes flicked to the photos behind me, old memories pinned like evidence. "You should have stayed out of this hallway just like your father should have. That did it." "You killed him," I whispered. "Didn't you?" Graves' expression hardened to stone. "I warned him," he said quietly. "Just like I warned you." I felt something inside me snap, a mix of hatred and clarity. "You're going to pay for what you did." His eyes narrowed. "No, Adam. You're going to leave here quietly, hand over the folder, and forget this room exists." I took a slow step back toward the photo wall. "No," I said, "I don't forget things anymore." Graves exhaled sharply and turned to the guards. "Take it from him." They moved, fast. I stumbled backward, clutching the file to my chest, knocking over an old metal chair. One guard lunged, grabbing my jacket, but I twisted away and slammed my shoulder into him. He hit a stack of boxes and toppled backward. The second guard rushed me. I swung the flashlight like a bat, hitting his forearm. He grunted, stumbling just enough for me to slip past him. Graves yelled, "Don't let him leave with that file." The corridor echoed with footsteps as the guards recovered and charged after me. I sprinted toward the narrow hallway, lungs burning, adrenaline blasting through my veins. The room lights flickered. The air felt thinner. My heartbeat pounded in my ears. I reached the metal door, the one that locked behind me when I entered. No handle, just a flat metal plate. Come on," I whispered desperately, slamming my fists against it. Footsteps thundered closer. One of the guards yelled behind me, "He's trapped." I rammed my shoulder into the door again. It didn't budge. Seconds later, a hand grabbed the back of my hood and yanked me backward. I swung around, elbowing blindly, managing to hit someone's jaw. The guard swore, releasing me. I stumbled forward again, but the other guard blocked the entire corridor now. "You're done, Reed," he growled. I clutched the folder tighter. "I'm not leaving without the truth." He lunged. I ducked, sliding under his arm and slamming into the corner wall. A sharp pain shot up my shoulder, but I kept moving. The file almost slipped from my fingers, but I held on. Then, for the first time since this started, luck showed up. A loud boom echoed above us. Both guards froze, looking up at the ceiling. Then the hallway lights snapped off. Pitch black, complete darkness. "Hey, turn them back on," Graves yelled. But they didn't come back on. Not even after a few seconds. Not even after the guard tapped his radio. Everything was silent except for our breathing. Then something happened that made my blood turn to ice. A faint glow appeared behind me. I turned. The locker room photos, every single one of them, were illuminated by a weak blue flicker. My flashlight wasn't on. The guards' lights weren't on. But the room was glowing. The guards whispered to each other, panicked. "What is that? Is it a breaker issue? No, this isn't normal." I stepped closer to the photo wall, the blue glow growing stronger around one picture, the one of my father standing in this same room. His eyes seemed to stare right through me. A strange warmth filled the air, a calmness, like he was still here. Then click, a tiny sound behind me. The metal door I came through slowly creaked open by itself. The guards gasped. Graves swore under his breath. I felt my entire body go cold. Someone or something had opened that door, for me. I backed toward it slowly, keeping my flashlight pointed forward even though the battery was dead. Graves' voice broke through the dark. "Adam, don't walk through that door." But for the first time he sounded scared, really scared. I stepped into the doorway, and before I slipped out I whispered, "Dad didn't die for nothing." Graves lunged forward, but the metal door slammed shut in his face. Hard. I locked the hallway behind me and ran. Ran like my life depended on it, because now it did. I didn't stop running until I reached the elevator. My legs were shaking so hard I nearly collapsed against the metal doors. My lungs burned. My shirt was soaked with sweat. Every shadow in the basement felt alive. Every sound felt like footsteps behind me. I jabbed the elevator button over and over. Come on," I whispered. The elevator took its sweet time, humming somewhere above me. I kept glancing down the dark hallway, half expecting the door to burst open, Graves and his guards charging through. But nothing moved. Not even the air. When the elevator finally dinged open, I slipped inside so fast I almost dropped the file. I hit the close button 5 times. The doors shut with a metallic groan and the elevator began to rise. Only then did I let out a shaky breath. I leaned back against the wall, clutching the folder to my chest like it was oxygen. My father died for this. Graves tried to bury it. And whatever force opened that door, I didn't know what it was, but it wasn't human. The elevator dinged again, opening to the main floor. The hallway lights were bright, almost blinding after the basement's darkness. Everything looked normal, peaceful, safe. But I wasn't fooled. Nothing about tonight was normal. I power-walked to the side exit, pushing the door open and stepping into the cold night. The sky was clear. Snow blew softly across the parking lot. The school behind me looked calm, quiet, like it hadn't just tried to swallow me whole. My truck sat alone at the edge of the lot. I hurried to it, fumbling with the keys. Once inside, I slammed the door shut and locked it twice. My hands were shaking so bad I dropped the folder on the passenger seat. For a moment I just sat there in the dark, breathing hard, staring at the school through the windshield. "This is insane," I muttered. "But I'm not running." I turned the key. Nothing. The truck didn't even cough. I tried again. Still nothing. My stomach dropped. Someone tampered with it. I yanked my phone out, the emergency one, the untraceable one, and tried to call someone. Anyone. But I had nobody left. My ex-wife would laugh before helping. My mother lived 3 states away. My old crew didn't talk to me anymore. The only name that popped in my head was Lewis, the young janitor I trained last month. He lived nearby. He owed me a favor. And he was one of the few people I trusted. I dialed his number. He picked up on the second ring. "Adam, dude, it's almost 3 a.m. You okay?" "No," I whispered, my voice shaking. "Listen, I need your help. Can you come to the school? Back parking lot now." There was a pause. "Yeah, I'm coming." The call ended. I slumped against the seat, watching my breath fog the glass. My pulse slowly steadied, but my mind kept racing. What were they hiding in that room? Why did my father die in there? And how the hell did a door open by itself? 10 minutes later, bright headlights appeared from the corner of the parking lot. Lewis's old Honda rolled toward me, bouncing over potholes. He parked beside my truck and jumped out, pulling up his hood against the cold. "Adam, man, what's going?" He stopped when he saw my face. "Bro, you look like you saw a ghost." I almost laughed. Maybe I did. I grabbed the folder and wooden box and stepped out of the truck. Lewis looked around nervously. "Okay, start talking." I took a deep breath. "Lewis, my father didn't die in an accident. Someone killed him. And tonight I found proof." His eyes widened. "What?" "I found a hidden room in the basement. Photos, reports, everything. My father tried to expose something dangerous. And the assistant principal, Graves, was involved." Lewis looked back at the dark school. "Dude, this is heavy." "Yeah," I said softly. "And they know I found the room. They chased me down there. Something weird happened. The lights went out. The door opened by itself. And now my truck won't start." He ran a hand over his face. "Man, you need to get out of here. Come crash at my place." I nodded. "Yeah, let's go." We jumped into his car. As soon as he turned the wheel and pulled out of the lot, he said something that made my blood freeze. "You know what's crazy? My uncle used to work at this school, back in the 90s. I turned slowly. "What?" "Yeah, he always said Westwood High had secrets. That maintenance guys were treated like they knew too much. He even mentioned some Reed guy." My heart stopped. "What did he say about him?" Lewis frowned, thinking. "Just that he got in trouble for opening something he shouldn't have, a room or something." I swallowed hard. "Room B17. Lewis continued. "He told my mom once that the school covered up some structural issue years ago. Said a whole wing was unsafe and they hid it to avoid lawsuits. C-wing. My father's notes. Everything matched." Then Lewis added something that punched the air out of my lungs. He said one of the maintenance guys died trying to expose it. I stared straight ahead. "That was my father," I whispered. Lewis's eyes widened. "Adam, I didn't know. I'm so sorry." I looked back out the window at the school shrinking behind us. I'm going to finish what he started. Because now, this wasn't just about me. It was about a man who died protecting this school, and a secret that could destroy the people running it. Lewis drove with both hands tight on the steering wheel, the wipers squeaking across the glass as light snow started to fall. The heater rattled, blowing weak, warm air toward our faces. But it didn't help. A cold, restless feeling clung to me, the same kind you get after a nightmare that isn't over yet. I held the wooden box in my lap, running my thumb along the carved initials. My father had left me a key. A clue, a warning. I wasn't going to waste any of it. Lewis glanced at me. "Adam, do you think that room is still dangerous? Like structurally?" I shook my head. "Dangerous? Yes. Structurally? Probably not. But whatever my father found in that room, whatever they covered up, somebody wanted it buried forever." Lewis exhaled sharply through his nose. "I can't believe they chased you. Bro, this is next level crazy." "It's more than that," I said quietly. Someone texted me, said to stay out of the basement, said my father should have listened too. Lewis stared. Wait, someone texted you from where? I don't know. Unknown number. I rubbed my forehead. And when I got home, a black SUV was watching my apartment. Lewis let out a low whistle. So this is basically a conspiracy. Yeah, I whispered. And I'm stuck in the middle. ATLUISS apartment. 3:45 a.m. Lewis lived in a small studio above a laundromat. The place smelled faintly like detergent and burnt toast. A futon sat in the middle of the room beside stacks of textbooks he never opened. Crash wherever, man, he said, locking the door and peeking out the blinds nervously. You want water, tea, something? Just somewhere to think, I said. I dropped the folder on his small kitchen table and sat down. Lewis hovered behind me like a nervous little brother. I opened the folder again, spreading its contents across the table. Photos of my father incident reports the C-wing structural failure. File the note my father wrote my own name on a fresh file. Lewis stared at the papers. Dude, this is insane. Your dad literally documented everything. I nodded. He was smart, careful, and he knew they were watching. My fingers landed on the blueprint tucked behind the photos, the one my father had circled several times. Lewis leaned closer. What's that? Blueprints of the school, I said. Look here, C-wing, it's marked in red, and here, I pointed. B17, the basement room I found. Someone scribbled next to it, core access. Lewis blinked. Core, like electricity. Foundation. I don't know, I murmured. But whatever it meant, my father thought students were in danger. I looked deeper into the blueprint, then I saw it, something small, easy to miss. A third circle, not C-wing, not the basement. A place labeled, Maintenance Access Tunnel closed since 1997. My stomach twisted. Lewis, have you ever heard of a service tunnel under the school? He shook his head. No, only the boiler room and storage areas. Well, I whispered, my father circled it 3 times. I tapped the map. This is where I go next. Lewis stared at me like I'd lost my mind. Bro, after everything tonight. Are you sure? I have to be. I looked at the photos of my father. He died trying to stop something. I'm not letting them bury his work. Lewis sighed heavily. Then I'm coming with you. No, I said. This isn't your fight. Yes, it is, he shot back. I'm not letting you walk into that place alone again. I'll help. You trained me. You looked out for me. Let me return the favor. I stared at him. For a second, I saw myself at 20 years old, hopeful, loyal, not yet beaten down by life. I nodded slowly. All right, tomorrow night. He smiled nervously. Okay. But if a ghost grabs me, I'm quitting immediately. I cracked a small smile. Deal. Later, 4:30 a.m. Lewis fell asleep on the futon, but I couldn't. Too much buzzing in my mind, too many connections forming. I sat at the table again, turning over the wooden box, examining every corner. Something felt off, too light, too small. I knocked the bottom. Hollow, my breath caught. There was a compartment inside. I carefully wedged my nail under the wooden layer and it popped open. Inside was another piece of paper, tiny, folded 6 times. The edges were brittle. My heart hammered as I unfolded it. My father's handwriting, shaky, faded, but alive on the page. Adam, if you ever find this, no matter what they say, I didn't fall, they pushed me. My vision blurred, I swallowed hard. They know I found the core access tunnel. Students are at risk. The foundation wasn't repaired. There will be a collapse if they keep hiding the truth. I felt the blood drain from my face. A collapse? I read the final line 3 times. If you want the truth, follow the tunnel at 3rd hall janitor closet. Be careful. They're watching. Dad, a tremor ran through me. The 3rd hall janitor closet. The same closet I used every night. The tunnel was right under my nose. A place I walked past every shift. My father left me the map, the key, the instructions. He trusted me to finish what he couldn't. I clenched the note in my fist, whispering, I won't let you down. But then Lewis's phone buzzed loudly on the counter. I snapped toward it. Unknown number. A text preview glowed across the screen. Tell Adam Reed he won't reach the tunnel. We're already waiting for him. My blood ran cold. I grabbed Lewis's phone and scrolled. Another message appeared instantly. He should have left it alone, just like his father. I looked toward the window. Outside, across the street, a black SUV idled under a flickering street lamp. They found us. For a full 10 seconds, I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The black SUV sat under the street lamp like a predator. Silent engine, tinted windows, headlights dim but on. Watching, waiting, just like last night. My stomach twisted. "They found us," I whispered. Louis stirred on the futon, mumbling in his sleep. I rushed to him and shook his shoulder gently. "Louis, wake up. Now." He blinked, groggy at first, until he saw my expression. His face drained of color. "What happened?" I held up his phone. "You got a text." He took it, brows furrowing. Then his eyes widened, scanning the message. "Bro, what the hell? Who is this?" "The same people who killed my father," I whispered. "The same ones who chased me tonight." Louis jumped off the futon. "Okay, we need to call the cops right now." "No," my voice was sharp enough to startle him. "They're part of it." Louis stared at me like he didn't want to believe that, but he didn't argue. He swallowed hard. "So, what do we do?" I peeked through the blinds again. The SUV hadn't moved. But now one of the headlights flicked twice. A signal, not random, not accidental. "They want us to know they're watching," I whispered. Louis backed away from the window. "Bro, should we run? Go somewhere far, a motel?" "Anything?" I shook my head. "No running, we stay smart, we stay ahead." I grabbed the folder and wooden box and stuffed everything into my backpack. "We're leaving," I said. Louis grabbed his jacket. "Where?" "The only place they won't expect us to go." "Where is that?" I opened the door quietly and motioned for him to follow. "Back to Westwood High." Louis froze. "What?" "It's the only place that has the full truth. The tunnel, C-Wing. Everything my father died for." Louis pulled his hair in frustration. "Adam, you're gonna get us killed." "Maybe," I said, "but not going back, that guarantees it." He stared at me for a long second, then he grabbed his shoes. "Fine. Let's go." Outside, 4:47 a.m., we slipped out the back stairwell of the building onto the alleyway behind the laundromat. The SUV at the front couldn't see us from this angle. We stayed low, moving between dumpsters and fences. The cold bit at our fingers and ears, every breath coming out in white clouds. "Louis," I whispered, "you still have that flashlight from work." He nodded and pulled it from his coat pocket. "Charged it earlier." "Good, hold on to it, you'll need it." We moved along the shadows of the buildings until we reached the next street over. There, Louis's Honda sat under a tree. "Keys," I whispered. He tossed them and I caught them mid-air. The moment the engine started, we ducked low and pulled out fast, but quietly, heading in the opposite direction of the SUV. Louis looked behind us. "Think they saw?" "No," but my voice lacked confidence. We drove in silence, snowflakes drifting across the windshield. After a minute, Louis said, "Adam, if we find something big, like something that exposes them, what then?" "Then," I said, gripping the wheel, "we go public. News, social media, everything. They can shut down one man, but not the whole world." Louis nodded slowly. "Okay, okay." But I could tell he was terrified. To be honest, so was I. Westwood High School, 5:02 a.m. The school loomed ahead, dark and motionless. Only the emergency lights at the corners glowed dim orange. Louis parked behind the gym, far from the cameras. He killed the headlights. "Adam," he whispered, "if we get caught." "We won't," I hoped. We walked to the back service entrance, the same one my father probably used decades ago. My hands shook as I used my janitor keycard. The red light blinked. For a second it didn't open. "Come on, please," I muttered, then beep. The light turned green, the door unlocked. We slipped inside silently. The building felt different at this hour, like the walls were holding secrets, waiting to be heard. Louis whispered, "Where's the tunnel?" "Third hall," I said. "Janitor closet." We moved quickly but quietly through the corridors. Every exit sign glowed faintly, every shadow seemed too long, every squeak of our shoes made my heart skip. When we reached the third hall, I stopped dead, because someone had already been here. The janitor closet door was open, a lock broken on the floor, papers scattered, mops thrown aside. Louis whispered, "Bro, someone ransacked it." I stepped inside slowly. My father's note said, "Follow the tunnel at third hall janitor closet." But all I saw was a wall, and a drain, and shelves, nothing else. Lewis rubbed his face. "Adam, maybe the tunnel was sealed." I shook my head. "No, look." I pointed to the floor, a thin line in the tiles, a square shape, dust slightly disturbed. "Trapdoor," I whispered. Lewis's eyes widened. Holy bang. A loud metallic slam echoed from the other end of the hallway. We both froze. "What was that?" Lewis hissed. I didn't need to guess. Footsteps followed, slow, heavy, deliberate. Then a calm voice floated down the dark hall. "Adam, come out. You don't want to make this harder." Assistant Principal Graves. He was here. Lewis panicked. We're dead, bro." "No," I whispered. "Get the trapdoor open, I'll stall him." Lewis's eyes bulged. "You can't go," I hissed. "Now?" Lewis dropped to his knees and began prying at the edges of the trapdoor with his flashlight. I stepped out of the closet and into the hallway, heart pounding like a war drum. Graves appeared from around the corner. His eyes were cold, focused, determined. "Adam," he said quietly, "don't run." I cracked my knuckles. "Not running." He took a single step forward. "Good," he said, "because you're not leaving this building." Graves stepped into the faint glow of the hallway lights, hands behind his back, posture calm, too calm. Like a man who had already decided how this night was going to end. My fists clenched on their own. Behind me, I heard Lewis whispering harshly under his breath as he pried at the trapdoor. Come on, open, you stupid thing." Graves peered past me toward the closet. "So you brought company," he said. "Not smart, Adam. You've involved an innocent kid." "He's more innocent than you ever were," I shot back. Graves tilted his head. "Do you even know what you're doing? You think you're some hero, just like your father." My chest tightened at the mention of him. "My father tried to save students. You tried to bury the truth." Graves's jaw flexed. "There are things you don't understand. And you're gonna explain them today," I growled. He stepped forward, I stepped back. The gap between us closed 1 inch at a time. "Adam," he said, voice lowering, "your father wasn't who you think he was. He put everyone at risk. He broke rules. He accessed restricted areas. He was murdered," I snapped. "He didn't fall, he was pushed." Graves stopped. For the first time, something flickered across his face. Guilt, fear, or recognition. "You shouldn't have gone into that room," he murmured. "You saw things not meant for you." "You mean evidence?" I stepped closer. "Of your cover-up." Behind us, the trapdoor made a sharp crack. Lewis whispered, "It's opening." Graves's eyes shot toward the closet instantly. In that moment, he realized everything. His voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. "Step away, Adam, now." "No," I said. "I'm done running." The trapdoor opens. Lewis gasped. "It's open." "Adam, now." I shoved the mop cart forward with all my strength. It rolled, wheels squealing across the tile slam. It collided with Graves' knees, catching him off guard. He stumbled backward. "G.O.," I yelled. Lewis dropped into the trapdoor, lowering himself into darkness. "Adam, come on." Graves roared. "Stop." He lunged. I dove into the janitor closet, grabbing the edge of the trapdoor and swinging myself downward. My foot slipped, hands scrambling, body twisting. I barely managed to slide inside before Graves reached the doorway. Down in the darkness, Lewis grabbed my arm and pulled. Our feet hit a set of narrow metal steps. Above us, bang. Graves kicked the trapdoor. "You can't run from this," he shouted. Lewis whispered, terrified, "He's gonna break it open." Metal groaned overhead. Lewis and I exchanged one look. We ran, down the steps, into the dark. Into the tunnel my father circled 3 times. The maintenance tunnel. The air grew colder the deeper we went. The walls narrowed. Pipes rattled above us. The flashlight beam shook wildly in Lewis's hand. "I can't see anything," he whispered. "Keep going." Something dripped from the ceiling. Water, coolant, blood. I didn't ask. The tunnel stretched on forever until it split into 2 directions. Each side was marked with faded paint. Left, C-wing access. Right. Core area authorized staff only. Lewis swallowed. "Which one?" I stared at my father's scribbled note. "Follow the tunnel, core access." "Right." "We go this way," I said. Lewis hesitated. "Adam, what if this was all a trap? What if they want us down here?" I turned to him. My father died trying to reach this place. I'm not turning back. He nodded, fear in his eyes, but trust too. We headed right. Something is down here. With us, the air changed again, heavier, humming faintly. The walls vibrated like machinery was running somewhere beneath our feet. Bro, Lewis whispered. Why does it sound like something is alive down here? It's the generators, I said. Maybe old wiring. But even I didn't believe it. Then thud, behind us. Lewis spun around. Tell me that was you. It wasn't. The flashlight flickered. The thud came again, closer. Something was walking in the tunnel, heavy, slow, deliberate. Lewis whined, voice cracking. Bro, I can't. This is horror movie stuff. I grabbed his shoulder. Quiet. We killed the flashlight. Pitch black swallowed us whole. My heartbeat was so loud it felt like a drum inside my skull. The footsteps grew louder, then stopped, right behind us. Lewis squeezed my arm, shaking uncontrollably. Adam, he whispered, voice trembling, something is breathing behind us. I heard it too, slow, wet, dragging air in and out. I swallowed hard. We stood frozen for 3 seconds, 5, 10. Then the tunnel lights flickered on by themselves. A faint blue glow illuminated the concrete walls. Lewis screamed under his breath. I turned slowly. There was nothing behind us. The footsteps were gone, the breathing gone, the tunnel empty. But on the wall behind us, a message was scratched into the concrete, fresh, jagged, like someone just carved it using something sharp. 2 words. Turn back. Lewis lost it. Nope, 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 this is demon stuff. It's not, I said quickly, grabbing his arm. It's human, a warning, someone else is down here. Why would they write that like a serial killer? Because they didn't want Graves finding it. Lewis blinked. Oh, I pulled him forward. If someone is trying to warn us, we're close. His voice cracked. Close to what? I turned back toward the glowing tunnel. The truth. The room my father died for. We reached the end of the tunnel. A heavy metal door stood before us, rusted with age, labeled. Core access, level 1. Lewis whispered, Bro, this looks like a bomb shelter. I pulled the silver key from the wooden box. My father's key. It slid into the lock like it belonged there. Click. The door creaked open, dust and cold air rushing out. Inside was a massive chamber, huge machines, pipes glowing faintly, blueprints pinned to walls, warning tapes, cracks along the foundation, and in the center a giant steel column surrounded by support beams, all of them bending, breaking, on the verge of collapse. Lewis whispered, Adam, this place is gonna fall apart. I nodded, breath trembling. My father was right. But then footsteps echoed behind us. Not slow, not heavy, running fast. I spun around and froze. A figure stood in the doorway, not Graves, not a guard. A woman, mid-40s, maintenance uniform. Flashlight in one hand, her breath shaking, her voice trembling. Adam Reed, I blinked. Who are you? She swallowed hard. I worked with your father. My heart stopped. She stepped into the light, tears in her eyes. I'm the reason he died. The woman stepped fully into the chamber, her boots echoing against the concrete floor. Her face was pale, eyes full of guilt that looked like it had lived inside her for decades. Lewis whispered behind me, Bro, who is she? I didn't answer. I couldn't. My throat felt tight, like the air suddenly weighed more. The woman removed her gloves slowly. My name is Marlene Carter. I was on the night maintenance crew in 1998. I was with your father the night he died. My stomach twisted. Lewis's flashlight shook in his hand. You were there, I whispered. She nodded softly. I was his partner for that shift. He trusted me more than anyone. I stared at her, heart pounding. Then why did you say you're the reason he died? Marlene shut her eyes for a moment, her voice cracking. Because I didn't protect him. That hit me like a punch. She walked closer, stopping a few feet away, hands trembling. Adam, your father found the cracks in the foundation. He realized the entire C-wing was unsafe. He wanted to report it to the district. He wanted everyone to know. That's what I read in his notes, I said quietly. She nodded. But he didn't know the school board was already hiding it. Westwood High was being audited that year. If the foundation flaw came out, the entire school would have been shut down. Lewis murmured, so they covered it up. They covered everything, Marlene whispered. They bribed inspectors. They rewrote reports. They ordered staff to stay silent. I clenched my fists, and my father refused. Her eyes filled with tears. Yes, he refused. He wanted to protect the students. He wanted the truth out, even if it cost him his job. Her words hit me harder than the cold air, because that sounded exactly like the man I barely remembered. Marlene walked toward the massive steel column in the center of the room, the one with visible stress fractures snaking across it. "Your father discovered this," she said. "He said it was a miracle the wing hadn't collapsed already." Lewis looked around, horrified. "Bro, this whole thing looks ready to fall apart." "It is," Marlene replied. "This chamber holds the foundation supports for C-Wing, and the school never fixed them, they just sealed the access points." I pointed at the tunnel behind us. "And left the danger here," she nodded. "Your father wanted to expose them. I told him not to do it. I told him it wasn't safe, but he wouldn't stop." Her voice cracked again. "That night he confronted Martin Graves." My blood turned to ice. "What happened?" I whispered. Marlene's lips trembled. "I was with your father in the basement hallway. He had the report in his hand. He said he was going straight to the district office." "And then?" I asked, heart hammering. "Graves appeared with 2 security guards, the same 2 men who work there now." Lewis whispered, "Dude, they're the same guys." Marlene nodded painfully. "Those men were hired specifically to keep this secret." I swallowed hard. "What did they do to him?" Marlene stepped back, gripping the railing for support. "They tried to take the report. Your father fought them. He shouted that he would tell the world." Her voice cracked. "They dragged him toward the staircase that leads to this chamber, where the floor was unstable." Lewis covered his mouth. "Oh my God!" "I begged them to stop," she whispered. "I tried to pull them off him, but one of them shoved me away." A tear finally slipped down her cheek. "I saw your father fall. I saw him hit the metal beams below. And I did nothing." Her legs trembled as she wiped her face. "They threatened to blame me too. They said if I talked, I'd lose everything, my job, my home, my kids. I was 23, I was terrified." I stepped closer. "Why say something now, after all these years?" Marlene lifted her head. "Because you found the locker," she whispered. "Your father's locker. He always said, if something happens to me, somebody will find the truth." She looked directly into my eyes. "When the lights flickered tonight, I knew it was time. I knew someone was down here." "The lights," I repeated. She nodded. "Every time this chamber's stress levels rise, the building's electrical system reacts. The foundation is worse than ever." Lewis whispered, "Meaning?" Marlene swallowed hard. "Meaning C-Wing could collapse any day now." I stared at the cracked steel column, the one my father circled on every map. "But that's not even the worst part," she added. My blood ran cold. "There's worse," she nodded, tears dropping onto the concrete. "They're planning renovations next week. Heavy drilling, construction, vibrations." Lewis's face drained of color. "Bro, if they drill near C-Wing, the whole wing will collapse," Marlene finished, "and students will be inside." A chill swept down my spine. "That's why they've been watching you," she said. "If you speak now, you could stop everything. Save hundreds of lives, but, I whispered, Marlene's voice lowered to a shake. "They won't let you leave this building alive." As she said it, a loud metallic clang echoed through the tunnel behind us. Footsteps followed, multiple, fast, heavy. Closing in, Marlene froze. Lewis grabbed my arm. "Bro, we gotta move." I turned toward the tunnel just as a flashlight beam swung into view. Graves's voice roared, "Adam, step away from her now." Graves' voice echoed through the chamber, bouncing off the steel beams. "Adam, step away from her now." Marlene stiffened. Lewis grabbed my sleeve. My pulse hammered like it wanted out of my chest. Graves stepped into the room, 2 guards behind him, flashlights slicing through the dusty air. His face wasn't calm anymore, it was furious, desperate, scared. "Adam, listen to me," he warned. "Whatever she told you, she's lying." Marlene stepped in front of me, voice shaking but firm. "No, Martin, not tonight." Graves clenched his jaw. "You don't know what you're doing, Marlene." She shook her head. "I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm telling the truth." Lewis whispered, "Bro, this feels like a final boss fight." I didn't blink. Graves, it's over. I know everything. He laughed once, a broken, angry sound. You think you know everything. Adam, you're a janitor. You were never supposed to find that locker. I stepped closer. My father didn't fall, you pushed him. Graves' expression twitched just enough to confirm it. You should have stayed away, he snarled. You're about to repeat his mistakes. Marlene stood taller. No, he's about to finish what his father started. For a moment, nobody moved. Then a loud crack ripped through the chamber. The massive steel column, the one with deep fractures, began to groan. Dust rained from the ceiling. Pipes shook. Lewis yelled, the foundation's giving out. Marlene grabbed my arm. This place won't hold. We need to leave now. Graves panicked, looking around at the trembling beams. Guards, get him, get the folder. He didn't get to finish. Boom. Part of the ceiling split open, concrete chunks crashing down between us. The guards dove back. Graves stumbled, nearly falling. Lewis screamed, run. Marlene pulled us toward the tunnel, but Graves lunged, grabbing my jacket. You're not leaving this room, he roared. I ripped free, shoving him back. He slipped on the shaking floor, slamming into a metal cabinet. His flashlight skidded across the ground. Adam, he shouted. If that file leaves this building, we all go down. I stared at him, chest heaving. That's the point. I turned and sprinted into the tunnel with Lewis and Marlene. Behind us, more cracks thundered through the chamber. The whole place shook like it was alive and angry. We climbed the steps toward the trapdoor as dust filled our lungs. Lewis shoved it open, the crack of dawn light spilling in. We stumbled out into the hallway just as the final collapse echoed below. Boom. Silence. Lewis coughed. Bro, that was insane. Marlene leaned against the wall, crying quietly, maybe from guilt, maybe from relief. I held the folder tightly to my chest. Tomorrow, I said, breathing hard, we expose everything, the media, the district, everyone. My father didn't die for nothing. Marlene nodded. He'd be proud of you. I looked at the rising sun through the hallway windows and didn't notice the security camera above turning silently toward us. Recording everything, someone else was still watching. The next morning, Westwood felt different. Not haunted, not dark, just exposed. For the first time in 26 years. Lewis sat next to me at the diner booth, still shaken, still processing. Marlene sat across from us, hands wrapped around a cup of untouched coffee. And in front of me lay the folder, my father's truth, finally in the daylight. I took a deep breath. We're doing this now. Marlene nodded. Once we send it out, there's no going back. That's exactly what I want, I said. Lewis cracked his knuckles nervously. Bro, you sure the district won't bury this again? I shook my head. Not this time. We're not sending it to one place. I pulled out my phone, the emergency one, untraceable. Lewis had spent hours scanning the documents and converting everything to digital files. One email, I said, to every news station, every reporter, every parent group, every school safety board, every whistleblower site. Lewis grinned. A public carpet bomb. Exactly. I attached the files, photos, reports, blueprints, my father's notes, Marlene's statement, everything. The truth, the whole truth, all of it. I hovered my thumb over send. For a moment I felt my chest tighten. A lifetime of failure, guilt, shame, and unanswered questions weighed on me. Then I pictured my father, smudged uniform, tired eyes, gentle smile, doing the right thing even when it killed him. This is for you, Dad, I whispered, and I pressed send. Chaos erupted within hours. News vans swarmed the school. Parents stormed the district office. Reporters demanded answers. Engineers confirmed the danger. By noon, by order of the state, C-Wing was shut down. The school board was suspended. And the police arrested Martin Graves and the 2 guards. When they put Graves in the back of the squad car, he saw me standing outside with Lewis and Marlene. His eyes burned with hate, but underneath it, fear. He mouthed, "This isn't over," I smiled back. "For you, it is." A week later, the school held a hearing. Marlene testified publicly. The foundation cracks were proven. My father's death was officially ruled. Negligence and cover-up by administration. They added his name to the memorial wall. They apologized to my family. They reopened his case. and for the first time in my life, I felt proud carrying the name Reed. A reporter asked me outside, "Adam, what are you going to do now?" I looked at the school, the place that took my father but couldn't bury his truth. "I'm going to keep working," I said. "Some buildings crumble, but some men don't." Lewis slapped my back. "Bro, that's a movie line." We both laughed. Marlene placed a hand on my shoulder. "Your father would have smiled today." I looked up at the clouds shifting above the school. "I know," I whispered.